Hi, welcome to Sumery P. Today I've got an Italian buckwheat cake that's gluten-free known as Torta di Grano Saraceno. It's one of the most famous cakes in the Alpine area of northern Italy where they speak German. It's a sponge that's nutty, filled with jam and sprinkled with icing sugar. Quite simple but tastes delicious. If you'd like to see how to make my gluten-free Italian buckwheat cake, come with me and let's see. So step one for our cake today, you need to prepare your cake tin. I'm doing it in a 20 centimetre round cake tin, and then we cut it in half and fill it with jam. If you've got two separate ones, you can do that. And I've just greased it down the bottom, pot paper, and greased it on the sides. And then you need to turn your oven on. We do it on quite a low oven, so it's 160 degrees C, which is 320 Fahrenheit or gas mark 3. Now in this bowl, we've got our paddle attachment, and I'm going to pop in some sugar. So it's 150 grams of caster sugar, and I've got the same quantity of butter. So we just need to whip those up until they're light and creamy. So that's nice and creamy. And to that we're going to do half a teaspoon of vanilla. There's a few different ways you can add the flavours. You can do vanilla, you can add a little bit of lemon zest or orange zest or cinnamon, but I'm just going to keep it simple and have the vanilla. And then I've already separated my eggs, so we're just going to add in the 3 eggs, and then we beat the egg whites up later with a little bit of sugar. Oh, just to go back, the sugar I've taken out 50 grams of that 150 and set it aside to go into my egg whites, so I only actually put in 100 grams. But it'll be in the recipe, and if you want the full recipe, you can jump over to sumeryp.com. I'm just going to scrape the sides down. Grab my trusty red spatula. Scrape that down. That's all combined. Now the traditional recipe combines a grated apple, and when I made this a few weeks ago I was testing it because I didn't have an apple, and I popped in yogurt and it tasted great. So you can use either Greek yogurt or an apple. So I'm going to use Greek yogurt today because I've got it to use up. So that's 120 grams. So we just need to mix that through. And what the yogurt or the apple does to this cake is, because buckwheat can tend to be a little bit dry, it makes the cake lovely and moist. So in this bowl I've measured out my buckwheat, and I'm just going to add, so that's 150 grams as well, and just a half a teaspoon of baking powder. Because we separate the eggs, we don't need to put as much baking or leavening agents in here. So I'm going to throw that in. And then we've got the same quantity, 150 grams of almonds or ground almonds. You can either grind your own almonds, use ready bought, which I've done, which is kind of like an almond flour, and then that's what makes it gluten-free. So just combine that gently. We don't want to incorporate too much air into this mixture. And you'll notice it looks quite thick now. So we need those egg whites. So I'm just getting all that off the paddle. I'm going to mix it a little bit with my hand. So let's take that off, give it a little bit of a stir. I've got some butter down the bottom. I also have a recipe for little buckwheat cupcakes that I made using this similar recipe. But I realised that I didn't have the actual original recipe as a video, so that's why I thought I'd share it with you. I'm just going to pop that to one side. So in this bowl, I've got a clean bowl, and I've got my whisk attachment. I'm just going to pop that on. So now we need to whisk the egg whites. I've got the 3 egg whites here in the jug, so I'm just popping them in. And I've got that 50 grams of caster sugar that I set aside. I think that's roughly about 1/4 cup or 5 tablespoons. So I'll just start mixing that on medium, and then I'm going to slowly add some of this sugar in. So you want to do roughly about a teaspoon at a time, just so it dissolves. Going to make it go a bit higher. So we're trying to achieve soft peaks, but it's still quite runny, so I'm going to keep going. So if you can see that, we've got like little soft peaks forming. So now we need to pop that in with the other mix. So now the fun part, adding these fluffy egg whites in with the mix. So I'm just going to do a little bit at a time, and the trick is to gently fold it. So folding just means not mixing, but just lifting up the dough and incorporating that in without stirring too much. So the egg whites create the lightness to the batter. I usually do it in like 4 goes, then it gives me time just to mix it in gently. So I can tell that the batter is becoming looser now. I'll just do the last bit. Delicious batter. Yeah, it's looking good. So grab your tin and just pop it in. You notice it's quite a thick batter. I need that little spatula back and just smooth it out. Just flatten the cake so it's kind of even. But what I'm going to get is, so just grab a spatula like that. If not, you could try a knife or something metal. A couple of taps to get the air bubbles out if you've got any. And then we need to bake it for about 40 to 45 minutes. I'm going to check it at 40 minutes with a skewer just to see how it's going, and stick around to the end because I'll show you how to cut it and put the jam in. Can't wait to try this. So my timer went off and I've just checked the cake and the skewer comes out clean. So I'm just going to pop it back in the oven and turn it off and just pop a tea towel over it, just to ensure it's cooked all the way through. I'm going to leave it there for about 5 minutes and then I'll take it out and let it cool totally before I cut it. So we're back with our cake and it's time to cut it in half. I've had it cooling for about an hour and a half, so I'm not always that good at cutting them in half, but I'm going to give it a go. I just do it by eye and hopefully. This isn't a very tall cake, so when you cut it in half, you only get thin layers. Let's pop the top to one side. So I'm going to put it on my serving plate. So I'm going to grab that. So we always have raspberry jam, so I'm going to put raspberry jam on the base. It's about 3 tablespoons. So this is the traditional way, just filling it with jam. They don't use cream or anything. But if you want to go off the traditional way and add cream, feel free. Remember, the top goes on. And then, truest Italian style, they just dust it with icing sugar. So I've just got this little container. And that's how it's served. And I'm just going to cut a little piece open so you can have a look. So when it first is baked, it's quite crunchy on the outside. But then the next day it goes a little bit softer. So I'll come closer and show you. So there it is. That's my Italian buckwheat cake. My layers aren't perfect, but that's my Italian buckwheat cake. So I'm going to have a little taste test. Nutty, moist, light. I love this style of cake. Give it a go. Let me know what you think. Hit the thumbs up if you've liked my video. Don't forget to share it with a friend. I'll pop a few links to some of my other favourite buckwheat cakes. And don't forget, consider subscribing if you're new here today and hit the bell, then you get notified when I've got a new video. And if you make it and give it a go, let me know below. That all rhymes. I'm going to go away and finish this. I'll see you later. Bye.